The OG Captain America versus the rip-off Captain America. Well, technically, the Red Guardian was the rip-off Captain America. John Walker is more for a rip-off or rip-off. But then also Steve Rogers' Captain America himself is a rip-off. But yeah, okay, whatever. Point is, you've got the all-natural try-hard versus the poster boy for steroids. You've got John Walker's the US agent versus Steve Rogers' Captain America. Who is the superior super soldier who wins in a full-scale battle? That's the battle I got for y'all today. Like, share, and subscribe as always. Comment down below on any thoughts you have about this video. Now, getting right into the video, I have to obviously say that I completely and utterly understand both sides or both arguments for both these characters. I understand why people believe John Walker wins, and I understand why people believe Steve Rogers wins. You see, John Walker was peak human before he became superhuman, to the point where he was able to face off against super soldiers prior to him taking the super soldier serum, and he was also able to face off against Bucky and Sam at the same time, and this was a physically stronger version of Bucky than the version Steve Rogers was able to fight in earlier MCU movies. But then on the other hand, Steve Rogers should naturally be more experienced, more skilled, as he has been fighting for a lot longer period of time against a lot more different characters. And to top that off, Steve Rogers, though his super soldier serum was not as easy to consume as John Walker's super soldier serum, it doesn't in any way mean that his serum was weaker than John Walker's. In fact, it might very well mean that his was actually stronger, since it was the first true perfected version of the super soldier serum. And then to top that off, though John Walker was able to face off against Sam and Bucky at the same time in a physically stronger version of Bucky, he did not have to fight a version of Bucky which was fighting with murderous intent and had an absolute incredible arsenal of multiple rifles and multiple knives. He fought a version of Bucky who had not a single weapon on hand and was fighting him not with the intent of killing him, but the intent of stopping him, which is not what Steve Rogers got to do. He fought a version of Bucky that was fighting with the intent of killing him and fighting with multiple weapons on hand. So yeah, I completely understand why people believe that John Walker wins, and I completely understand why people believe that Steve Rogers wins. Both of them have decent arguments on their side that should imply them to be able to actually defeat the other. But I personally believe that Steve Rogers, Captain America, should win the battle. Now, before everyone gets angry, hear me out, okay? In terms of raw physical strength, I can say that John Walker should be stronger than Steve Rogers, since he was able to physically overpower a stronger version of Bucky than the version Steve Rogers was able to overpower in earlier MCU movies. But it's not like the strength gap is that massive, since Steve Rogers is able to keep up with Bucky's levels of physical strength, and at times was able to even overpower him. And then in terms of speed, they should just more or less be relative, as they are able to keep up with the same caliber of characters. But then in terms of durability, stamina, and endurance, I'm going to Steve Rogers' side and saying he's superior. John Walker is able to tank a lot of attacks from a variety of different powerful characters like Bucky Barnes himself, but Steve Rogers isn't just able to tank attacks from Bucky Barnes, he's also able to tank attacks from Iron Man, Ultron, Guards, and obviously even Thanos the Mad Titan, someone who can overpower Thor and be relative to the Hulk's physical strength. The Hulk can one-punch a Leviathan. Steve Rogers tanked an attack from Thanos, then got up moments later ready for more. Stamina, endurance, and durability are the things Steve Rogers is literally known for. So I'm going to say he's superior in those aspects when compared to John Walker. And in all honesty, I'm also going to say he's a better martial artist than John Walker. Like, John Walker is a great martial artist, we know that. But Steve Rogers isn't just a great martial artist, he's also a lot more experienced than John Walker, so I think he should be a bit better than John Walker. And I also think he should be a bit better when it comes to using rifles and the shield than John Walker. Both of them have used rifles and the shield for an extended period of time, but Steve Rogers just used it for a lot longer. So I have to simply lean towards him being better at using both rifles and the shield when compared to John Walker. So the only thing that John Walker is affirmatively superior at is raw physical strength. Aside from that, they should be relative in terms of speed, and Steve Rogers should be great in almost every other aspect, that being durability, stamina, endurance, combat skill, and weapons. That is why I want to slightly lean towards Steve Rogers being superior and being the victor of this battle. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that this is going to be a walker in the park for... God, that was horrible. I'm not saying this is going to be an easy fight for Steve Rogers. It's not. John Walker is relative to him in a few different aspects, and John Walker is physically stronger than Steve Rogers. So his physical attacks might be more dangerous or hurt Steve Rogers more than Steve Rogers' attacks would hurt him. But Steve Rogers should be able to land a few more attacks, and given that he's superior in combat skill and when it comes to using the different weapons, his attacks might be more vital.
Oh, and obviously the fact that Steve Rogers does have greater levels of durability, stamina, and endurance, so you should probably be able to fight on for a lot longer than John Walker in this battle.
So yeah, I don't think that this is an easy fight, but I think that Steve Rogers should win it. Anyway, that's all I've got for y'all for today. I'm sure many people are going to have a lot of comments and thoughts about this. Completely understandable. If y'all do, please leave them down below. This is MC Info to another MC Clash. I'm out.